Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I was hoping that this webinar would be able to help with a lot of the various questions that I've gotten over the last few weeks about KEA. Hopefully this will clear up some just misunderstandings and also put your mind at ease that this is doable and we will be able to get through this. If you attended the training in April, some of these slides will possibly look familiar to you. I just kind of want to go through and talk a little through the KEA and what it is and what it is not. The KEA it stands for Kindergarten Entry Assessment, but as many of you may remember, some of you may know, it's actually part of the North Carolina K-3 formative assessment process. And it is part of the Read to Achieve law. The part of this law mandates that by the school year 2016-2017, all grades K through 3, all students will be formatively assessed through this process. And the process is handled by the Office of Early Learning with DPI. And so this is not a CMS initiative. I want to make that really clear. I know districts all over the state are making sure that its folks know that this is from the state. And it has been left to districts to train you and support you, and I want to do that as best that I can, and our team of implementers the best that we can. So hopefully this will help clear up some things. The KEA, to clarify, is not one test. I've gotten emails from principals and various literacy leaders saying, can you send me the KEA? It's not one test, it's a process, and I think that's really important for you all. To remember, it is just a process. The General Assembly pulled out the kindergarten piece from the North Carolina K-3 formative process and had us start kindergarten first, hence the name Kindergarten Entry Assessment, excuse me. But I think next year we may not hear KEA anymore because it's going to be all grades K through 3, all students K-3. In a nutshell, the process is that kindergarten teachers collect evidence or data. Another word for that evidence could be data, something that shows what that student knows in a particular area. And those areas have been deemed the areas that we're working with and the constructs by the Office of Early Learning. So when you think about how this looks in a classroom, the evidences or the data pieces, the samples could be observations, they could be work samples, they could be questions that a teacher asks a student and makes note of. Also, the information that is required through the state, such as MClass and TRC. We get a lot of information through those tests. So there could be formal tests that we are actually required to give, and we can use that information. The Office of Early Learning has deemed that there are 5 different domains of learning, and these are what will be used K-3 for the entire formative process. So we have approaches to learning, and just kind of you can read on the screen what those are, just how a child approaches their learning situations, their cognitive development, obviously brain development, their thought processes, their metacognition. But in this case, I want you to think of it in terms of math, pretty much. I can't get my screen to forward. Not sure why. There we go. So when thinking about how do they acquire, how do they use their information? Let's see. Their emotional and social development. Obviously, all kindergarten teachers. I mean, really, we would like all K-12 teachers to be thinking about this because this plays heavily into how a student learns and how successful they are at achieving the standards that we're teaching. Health and physical development. Obviously, we look at gross motor, small motor, midline with children. Their well-being, can they see, can they hear? And then language development and communication, obviously our literacy, our oral language skills, and all the language arts. So those are the domains, and under each domain there are constructs. So many of you may remember that there are lots of constructs to each domain. And at one point this year we were going to be looking at about 8 to 9 constructs, and the General Assembly decided that that was a lot to start with and brought us down to 2. I actually think of it as 3 because these are 2 separate constructs, book orientation and print awareness. You do need to look at both of those separately, even though they really are one thing, but in the actual platform that I'm going to show you, you do need to work with them separately. So really the 3 areas that kindergarten teachers need to look at this year formatively for the K-3. So I don't mean that a kindergarten teacher is not looking at any of these other things. Of course we are. Of course we look at letter naming. We look at how a student follows directions. We look at, their gross motor. Can they hold a pencil? Can they hold a crayon? Of course they're looking at how a child engages. Are they motivated, or do they need a lot of redirection? Of course kindergarten teachers are looking at these things and collecting these things for their own use, for their instructional planning. But for the purposes of the KEA, what is required, it is object counting and book orientation and print awareness for this year, So thinking about object counting, and I am going quickly through these, so obviously you'll be able to go back and listen and jot down notes if you have further questions. But the claim is that children recognize that that counting tells the number of objects. This is the state's claim, and this is what we will be thinking of in terms of how well does a student, where is a student on the progression of that claim? Where is a student in their recognition of counting and the fact that it tells the number of objects? So that is that claim. And if this page is from the wiki, the live binder, I'm going to show you where you can see this page. This is the learning progression. This is the first page of the learning progression for object counting. And you see right here the understanding that children recognize that counting tells the number of objects. And we start from A and it goes all the way to H, the second page, which I clearly here you only see one page, but essentially what the state is asking us to do is collect evidence on a student's ability to count objects. What is their knowledge? What does your data say about that student? And then ultimately, closer to the 60th day, the teacher makes a summary statement about that student and where they are on this learning progression. Are they at letter A? Do they say or indicate counting words randomly with one number for each object, while tapping or pointing to one and only one object to attempt to determine the number of objects in a collection? Are they here? Could they possibly be at D? States or indicates that the last number counted is the total quantity. Do they have the cardinality? And as I said, it goes on to another page, goes up to H. So these are the skills within this construct and where they sit on that progression. And then these are the descriptors. What does a student at that level look like? It's kind of a little summary of what the teacher wants to do, what the student needs to do, and how the student does it. It's just a descriptor of that particular area. These are there to help you. You may very easily and confidently be able to make a decision where a child is on this learning progression. So when you think of a learning progression, think of our Fountas and Pinnell reading levels. It's a continuum. It's a progression. We go from letter A. What's our ultimate goal? Is that as adult readers, we're reading at a level Z. This is the same kind of thing. Where do I need to push my student to be so that they're ready for first grade, so they've met the standards? So if I've started a student, if I see that a student is level A, that helps me know what kinds of lessons I need to plan, what kind of strategy groups and small groups in math that I need to plan so that I can move this child along the progression. We're going to skip that. So thinking about assessing object counting. Every kindergarten classroom in the district now has access to Kathy Richardson's AMC. if you are unsure of how to access this, your academic facilitator, your literacy facilitator, your math facilitator should have that information. And if they do not, you can reach out to me. I will put you in touch with Kanika Turner. Kanika.Turner is one of our elementary math specialists in the district, and she can help you. There is a SMORE page now that they send out each week with math updates. There are all kinds of documents to support you in your KEA formative assessment of children using Kathy Richardson. There are school-made one-to-one assessments that schools use. There is no requirement. The district has not said every single teacher must use Kathy Richardson. That has not been mandated. It is available for you. It is a solid assessment, but some schools would rather use their own means to assess object counting from staggered entry all the way to the end of the year. And that math assessment is part of the Kathy Richardson document, since Kathy Richardson has been made for every kindergarten classroom in the district for the purpose of supporting you in KEA. That's where that CMS document comes in. So moving forward, thinking about language development and communication. So we've talked about cognitive development. Now we're going into language development and communication. And as we talked about, the only two constructs that are required this year to be uploaded and to have a summary statement for are book awareness and book orientation and print awareness. Just to give you a quick what is print awareness. You can read that screen. Just do they know the difference between written text and illustrations? Do they know where to start on a page, where the cover of a book is? I know you all know this, but that's just there for you to share. And then also book orientation, same thing. What is a book for? What do we do with a book? Where do we begin reading? In English, we read left to right. Where's the title, this sort of thing, same kind of thing. So they are two different constructs, but we tend to put them together. So the two understandings within the constructs written by the Office of Early Learning are: children understand that books have pages that may contain pictures and words, and children understand that books contain pages of print and represent language, and sometimes there are pictures that help us know what the words describe. So thinking about different ways to assess your students, definitely TRC, and many of you have already done some sort of formative assessing with your students this week during staggered entry. I know I supported a school that was testing kids one-on-one using a picture book and asking them questions and having them point to things on the page and show them which way to read, where the teacher should start. TRC will also give you that. So if you want to use your TRC data after the window or whenever you have finished testing that student, you can certainly enter that as evidence of your student's book orientation and print awareness. And you'll get that obviously through the first test that you tend to do with kindergartners. There are going to be kindergartners that far surpass PC and RB, and that's perfectly fine. That's wonderful. We would love that, right? But you'll just put that in as your evidence, and when we look at the platform, I'll show you where you would mark for the learning status and the summary status for that child with these two constructs. Oops. So what do I do with this? Now I've got data, I have evidences. Remember, I use those interchangeably. I have evidences, I have notes, I may have pictures and videos, which we will talk about. What do I do with that now that I'm ready to go into my platform and upload evidences and make summary statements? So I'm going to exit out of here for a moment, and I'm going to go into the platform. And I've already logged in, so I have shared a few times how to get in. I know that some schools are having problems still entering in their 10-digit user ID and actually getting the email. There have been some glitches. So The only thing I can do is to tell you to continue to reach out to tech support. I have been concerned with the tech support because no one answers the phone. I don't know if anyone listening to this webinar has experienced this, but I have had some experiences with they don't answer the phone. I send an email and I get an email back a week later. So all I can tell you is to continue to try to use the tech support. I really cannot give you access beyond giving you this information. I can't go into PowerSchool and recode you if you're not coded correctly in PowerSchool. If your PowerSchool ID doesn't match up for some reason, I can't fix those things. So I'm really relying on tech support, and until those things get taken care of, I really want to put everybody's mind at ease. We can only do what we can do, and so if you do not have access to the platform, it is okay. It will all be just fine. We will get it worked out. So looking at this platform, I'm going to try and move this a little bit. You can see that I have my welcome screen up here. And this is your actual regular page. But for the purposes of when you need to practice, if you click on that little drop-down arrow, you will see Sandbox. And when you click on Sandbox, this is your demo. Okay, it's working. There we go. So just like you have a Reading 3D demo, this Sandbox is your demo to go in and play around and practice. This platform is not difficult to use. I've been fairly impressed with the ease of uploading evidence, should you choose to do so, making summary statements. When you're in the Sandbox, this will always be here, so you'll know that you're in the Sandbox. So let's assume that we're ready to upload some evidence. There should be at least one demo child in your class. I went in and added one, but let's go ahead and go to Evidence. So I'm going to click on Evidence. And I have Annabelle and John John. John John I added. I believe you may have Annabelle. I think they uploaded Annabelle to everyone's Sandbox. But you can add children if you care to do that. But I just... you really only need one to really practice. So if I want to add evidence for just Annabelle, all your children should be here. This is another thing. When you're in your regular account, you should see all of your children listed. If you don't, that's a tech support question. I would click on the student. If I have the exact same evidence that I want to upload for all children, I can select all, or I can just click Annabelle. So I click on Annabelle's name, and then I go down to the evidence date, and I can only add evidence from today or prior. I cannot add evidence from the future, because it would mean I don't have evidence from tomorrow yet or next week. But I can go backdate my evidence. So if you all are keeping paper and pencil notes, if you're wanting to take some screenshots of Reading 3D evidence, you can do that. You can backdate it. So I'll just put today, because today my evidence is going to be a note. And I'm just going to add a note. Annabelle knew the cover of the book and confidently pointed to the cover. She told me by pointing where to start reading and where to stop. She tracked words with her finger. I could upload a file if I needed to. If I have something in my flash drive, I can do that. But for this particular one, I'm not going to do that. With this piece of evidence, I want to assign it to a construct. And I'm going to go down to language development. and I'm going to click book orientation. I'm going to put print awareness also because she pointed to where words are, and I'm going to click save and continue. And where it's going to take me is to the learning progression page. So I need to tie this piece of evidence to a letter on the progression. This is just like that math object counting progression page that I showed you in the PowerPoint. So it starts at letter A, and we remember that children understand that books have pages that may contain pictures and words. So she knew where the cover was. She did hold the book for me. So I would not say that this student is level A. I would not say she's C. I can scroll through and keep looking. So I would not say she's A. She's a little closer in. Holds the book upright, opens it from the front cover, and turns pages, not always one by one. She did know where to turn the pages. Holds the book upright, opens it from the front cover. Oh, excuse me. Holds the book upright, turns the pages in order, starting at the front. So I would say that she's here based on just the note that I made, and so I'm going to click that. That's where I believe she was based on this piece of evidence. Folks, this is subjective. There is no right or wrong. I'm only making this learning progression statement based on that one piece of evidence. This is not my final summary statement that I'm making on Annabelle, which is due on November 17th. This is a learning statement, a learning summary, excuse me, based on that piece of evidence. This is not my final summary statement for where Annabelle fits on this progression. This is where that evidence fit. So then I hit save and close. So now it tells me I've added some new evidence. I can go add another, or I can view the evidence. So let's look at what it looks like when you have it in your system. So Annabelle knows the cover of the book and confidently pointed to the cover. She told me by pointing where to start reading and where to stop, she tracked words with her finger. Level D. Now, some of you might think, I think that's beyond. That's perfectly fine. You may have put beyond for that. This is subjective. This is not right or wrong. This is not going on a child's report card. This is not going on your EVOS. This is you making a decision based on that piece of evidence where that evidence fits on this progression. So now I can go back to add evidence. And I can upload another one if I care to. If I want to add evidence for all students, I can do that. And when I add a note or upload a file, and then assign constructs, it will go to all of those children. So you may have something that you want to upload for all children, and you can do that. I can view my evidence, all the different evidence that I've added, and I have added a few different pieces. You can see I've kind of been playing around. I can click on it, and this should be a note. Annabelle holds the book correctly and can denote the written text from illustrations. She can tell what is happening in the story by looking at the illustrations and also knows the difference between individual letters and whole words. She's able to turn the pages and knows where to look left, to right, also return sweep. So if I scroll down just a little, this is something I added on the 16th. Doesn't tell me, let's look at evidence status. I was going to say, what did I give that? I'm guessing I might have put beyond that. Okay, no, that's not what I wanted. But that lets me view the evidence that I've uploaded. And there are several there. So that is how I upload evidence. If I want to upload a photograph or a video from my phone, I can do that. The important piece to this, colleagues, is that you must have a photo video release to be able to upload those. You want to be able to see those. So let's see. Okay. Looking at status summary. This is what you will do in November after you've collected all the evidences that you want to collect for that piece. The state has not put a requirement on how many pieces of evidence you must upload. There's no requirement. So someone has asked me, well, could I upload no evidence and still make a summary status? Yes, you could. But remember that evidence is data. So if there was ever an audit and the state wanted to come in and say, well, you've made this great learning statement about John, where's your evidence to support that learning statement? You need to have that evidence. You need to have that data, which I'm sure you do. We've all got data notebooks and portfolios on students. So I just want to make it clear that the state has not put a minimum requirement of evidences. So remember, these two are not the same thing. This is the evidence. This is the data you can upload. This is the status summary you make based on looking at all of that evidence. So even though you do the KEA, you may have lots of other evidence between now and November that shows you where is that child in terms of their object counting skills. So where a child is today for a status summary may not be the same as where they are in November, which is why the state is hoping that you're making your summary statements closer to the end of 60 days, because you've spent 60 days collecting the evidence, and then you make a decision based on that evidence. So the question has come up, could I make a summary statement on Monday of this week? Could I do that on the 31st of August? You sure could, but you didn't spend very much time collecting much evidence around that child with object counting. You've got that KEA, which is a wonderful assessment of where they are right now. And then the few other things that you may collect between now and then, observations, small group work, notes, activity results, what they do in an activity that you plan for math. Those are the things you use to make your decision on a status summary. So let's say it's time to go make our status summary. I'm going to go to Annabelle. Now I've already made a few, so I want to see how this looks if I can redo them, which I do believe you can always go and. Okay, so right now, I will say that when you're finished, you should have a green arrow, so I've already entered in a summary statement for cognitive development, and I've started with language development. So let's look at that one. Well, let's go to cognitive development because I might want to change it anyway. So let's unfinalize because I want to go back and change it. Okay, so I'm looking at object or cognitive development, and I'm going to go in right now. So we're going to pretend that this is a blank circle. We're going to pretend it looks like that for the purposes of this webinar. So when you're ready to go make your cognitive development summary statement on Annabelle or all your students, I'm going to go to object counting. And I've already decided where on my progression this child is. Closest, closer to the 60th day of school, where do I feel that Annabelle fits? So I have an evidence. This, by the way, shows you that you have some evidence under level F. I think that's where I put her earlier this morning. Wherever you have evidences is where you'll see that little file, and you can click it to see your file. So I'm going to select H. This is where I think Annabelle is on this learning progression. She could be beyond. I can just click beyond. That's all I have to do. If I feel that a student is not even here at level A, I click emerging. That does give me information that we're not even here yet. So this child's going to be awesome because I've got lots to teach this child. This child has lots of learning to do this year. So once you go ahead and make your statement, your summary statement, this is your final step. When you've done this for Annabelle, I'm done with Annabelle. I save and I close. Still working. Okay. Now what I need to do is go back up here, and I'm done with Annabelle. I need to click finalize, or that orange won't turn green. It'll stay orange, meaning it's in progress. I haven't finalized it. So now when I hover, I see that cognitive development for Annabelle is finished. So I come down to language development and communication, and the only two I need to do are book and orientation and print awareness. Now, these are still showing, so the state has assured me that even though you may not ever, they don't know when they're going to be able to see this green, because these are here, because these will be here next year. So let's go into book orientation. I believe I have a summary statement already from practicing before, but if not, it's okay. Nope, I don't. So I'm going to go ahead, and I see I've got evidence there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to decide where she is. I put her at beyond. I did do one. I'm sorry. I thought I took it out. I just didn't finalize it. So I'm going to save and I'm going to close that. I've decided that I've put her there for book orientation. And I look over all my evidence, go back down here, and I'm going to go to print awareness, and I need to make a decision of where she falls on the progression for print awareness. So let me see, did I already do this one? I'm not sure, because I know I didn't finalize it. So I put her at G. So I save and close. I can change that, even if I finalize it, and then I want to go redo it. You saw me unfinalize. I could actually go back and change my summary statement. You have until the 17th of November to enter your summary statement, and even if you finalize it, say, the end of October, I can go in on the 10th of November, unfinalize it, and change it. But once the 17th hits, it's final. So I need to go back in, though, and I need to finalize my summary statements, which it's not letting me do because there are other constructs. This is exactly right. So as of right now, we cannot finalize language development and communication. So it's in progress because of those other two constructs. So hopefully the teaching strategies is going to take care of that. And if not, then you do what you need to do. If you can't finalize it, you can't finalize it. We can only do what the platform will let us do, which is why I'm also saying if you still can't get into the platform, it is not a worry right now. We're not going to worry about it. So let's go back to the previous screen. So status summary, it lets me see how much I have done. The other thing that I wanted to show you, this is by child. We can do this by class, which is really awesome because it's quick. So if you have already made your decisions and you have them out in front of you, I can go ahead and click language development and communication, book orientation, and my children are going to be all along the bottom, and I can just click, 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 save and close, and do them all at once, all on one screen. I do not have to do this by child. Hopefully you're seeing my mouse. You can do this by class. You may not be ready to do it all at once, which is the reason you might click by child. But if you're ready to sit down and make your status summaries, which is the law, that's what's required by law. Remember, evidence, you need to have it somewhere. If you do not have it in this platform, you need to have it. But what's required by law is that you make a status summary on every child. And you're going to make it on book orientation, print awareness, and object counting. So that is the platform. I want to show you the summary dates. There are, I need to toggle to this year. Go. Okay, go ahead. No, it's not resetting my years here. Oh, yes, it did. Excuse me. You can see that the status summary is due November 17th, 2015. There are 3 other summary dates. These are not required by law. So colleagues, what I'm telling you is the only status summary that is required by law for each and every kindergarten student in the state is this date right here. This is for you. If you want to go back in here and do this because it is helping you really see where your kids are, there is some good value to this. Hopefully you're seeing where it really lets you know where on a learning progression your child is in all of those learning areas. There is good intention and there is value in this. So this is up to you. What I would recommend doing, I would recommend practicing during another checkpoint with other constructs, because next fall you're going to be doing about 8 to 10 constructs. So if you've practiced with them and you've looked at them and you've familiarized yourself with them, it's not going to be so overwhelming. You know, kindergarten teachers, you have my utmost respect and the respect of most human beings, I think, because what you do is really special, taking 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and having them their first year of formal education. So you know what you're doing, and you know kids, and this is just a way of documenting that. So the state is requiring only this summary due date, which is what's helping me to believe and convince others that this is not for EVOS, because if we don't have to go in here and do it, how can we use that for any kind of growth measure for our standard 6? This is not for standard 6. That is what I have been told. All right, I'm going to right now not go over these tabs right just yet. This is a lot in a webinar, and I didn't want to make this too long. So the other thing, oh, I need to also remind you, please remember that when you're playing around in the sandbox, when you go to actually do summary statements, don't do them in your sandbox. Obviously, you'll be reminded when you don't see your students there, but just remember this is your demo. I want to go ahead and I want to briefly talk about the app. There is an app you can put on your phone or your iPad, and it is pretty awesome, actually. I've tried it. I have it on my phone. Obviously, I can't show you my phone screen on this webinar, but there are directions on the wiki on how to get that. I have sent it in an LF update a few weeks ago. If you need that, I can forward that to you again on how to upload. You just need to go to the App Store, and I can look right now. Actually, I'm looking at my phone. Forgive me. Hold on one second. And it's evidence. You could do, I think you search K3 formative assessment in your App Store, and it comes up as an app. You log into the app using your login, and it's really amazing. You can take a picture and just click upload, and it immediately sends it to this site. So if you want to just take a very quick picture of an activity, if you want to take a video of the student doing the activity, remember you need that photo video release. But if you want to take a picture of a work sample, that's evidence. Go for it. And it's really fast and really easy. You can use voice text. If you want to write a note, then you can just hit voice text. And so like where I typed in, you know, Annabelle showed me where the cover is, I can speak that and literally hit send, and it will send it right to Annabelle's file. So it is that's actually kind of convenient if you want to be uploading evidences. So again, I can show you where the directions are to download that app. So we're going to stop for a moment within this, and I'm going to show you the wiki, or excuse me, the live binder. If you go to Google and you just search KEA, or you search NC-K3 formative assessment, you'll see the live binder. Click on it, and there are a lot of tabs here, and I want to just kind of show you some of the tabs. If you want to see the construct progressions, those are the learning progressions. You can click on this, construct progressions, and the document is right here. My webinar screen is in the way, so forgive me. I'm having to toggle between that and... Okay, so this document right here shows you all of the learning progressions. Sorry, I'm trying to open it for you, but it shows them all for all of the different, let's see, I think this will let me open it. Yes, okay, here we go, yay. So if you just go through this document, you can save it. My plan was to send these out to schools, but because of our budget, I do not have money to order these for schools. We need to order them through the state, and they're right here for you if you wanted to print some. There's a lot of information in them, but kind of shows you some different assessment means, some situations that you can do with your students for assessing that particular construct. But there it is, right there. There it is, A, B, C, D. This is what you saw in my PowerPoint. And then we can go all the way to H, continues the counting sequence when more than one object is added to the set without counting all of them again. So you can read the descriptor. What is this student able to do? Well, my student is actually able to do more than that, so you would click beyond on the summary statement or on the learning statement for the evidence that you used. But this goes through all of them, all of the different constructs that you will be using next year. So going back to the KEA Live Binder, just kind of wanted to show you there are a lot of things on here you necessarily don't need. You don't need the district implementation tools. There are different samples of documents and things. Using the technology platform and technology support. Using the technology platform, if you click on this, there is a webinar that was presented by Teaching Strategies that shows you much more in depth the entire platform. So if you want to go through those other tabs, you can click on this. It's about 91 minutes. So, and I have not kept track of how long this one is. I was hoping to keep it a lot shorter, but so I wanted to go back and just let you know that we will be piloting grades 1 through 3 at the schools you see on the screen. We'll be piloting the formative process this year. They start in January because grades 1 through 3, as I mentioned earlier, will be starting in September or August, first day of school, collecting data and having to do the same thing that you are all doing. So I certainly am counting on all the kindergarten teachers and all the literacy leaders that have been working with KEA this year to support the pilot and support your 1 through 3 colleagues next year as they navigate this. You know, frame it well, keep it positive, and they'll be great because they'll look to you for leadership and support and kind of your outlook on the whole process. So if you have questions, I would rather you not use this Google form, actually. I'm going to take it out right now. There's the Live Binder, and don't need you to do the survey. This was from my training in April, but I'll put this back up again. Jennifer.Harrison is me, and Erica.Beatty is our regional consultant. I'd like you to go with me first for questions, and then if I can't answer them, I go to Erica. All right, I think that's everything that I have for you today, and I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope that you have an awesome weekend and that you do well with KEA. Thanks so much.